Hey, girls.
Hi.
Hey, ladies.
That's
How's
a
your
very
week been
pretty
going?
quilt behind you, Kathy.
Oh, thank you. I love the fabric.
Some bright color. Did you make it?
My daughter Maggie did, and I quilted it. So, because I'm a store owner now, so I don't get a lot of time to piece. I do lots of other things, which is okay. And it's all good. So she's actually been really good. This has been really good. My daughter Maggie, this has been fabulous. It's been fabulous watching her grow as a piecer. So it's been great.
Good. So you're teaching her, or has she been quilting for a long time, or is this new for her?
This is new since we bought the store in 2019.
Oh, awesome.
I know.
It's lovely. I like the colors.
Right. She is definitely an artist at heart. She loves anime. She's amazing. She's a type B personality stuck in a pretty predominantly type A family. I mean, very predominantly. Even my children are marrying type A people. And so she slows my world down, and she looks in color and she thinks in color, and she's phenomenal in the long arm room and helping people and very patient. If your thread breaks 700 times, she's right there to help you. She's just good.
Awesome. Well, that's good.
So, and I like the one behind you a little bit more calm.
It's an Irish chain I made back when I did still piece. I actually pieced this one. I think I did it in 2009, maybe. And I taught it at the quilt shop I worked at before I opened my own place. I worked at a quilt shop, and I used to work the floor and teach classes there. This was one of the classes that I taught.
Oh, how fun.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good one. It was on the bed for a while. Now it's not.
Is it just 3 fabrics, or is there more fabrics?
There's a border. The border's different. That's the border.
Okay.
So that's all there is to it. And then it's got a wide back on it. And it has, I don't know if you can see it in the camera here. Oh no, you can't see it anyways. Right there. There's some kind of rust. Something got set on it at some point. I mean, I had it in the other shop for a very long time. And it was folded in a box for a long time too. So at some point something sat on it, and it's just this little, and it looks like rust to me. I've not tried to get it out yet, but yeah, one day or not. I'll just leave it there. Gives it character.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. I like this quilt though.
It's pretty.
Thank you.
And
are you glad to be home, Angela?
I am. And I didn't set my camera up so you can see my quilt, but yeah, there's one actually over here. But yeah, I am very glad to be home. Very, very glad to be home. And I'm already looking forward to when I'm getting on the plane again in a couple weeks. Yeah.
Travel.
Are you going back to Iowa, or are you going somewhere to teach?
I'm going to Iowa to teach. So yeah, 2 weeks. I go back to Iowa to teach again.
Good.
So yeah, it's
lucky
fun if you don't weekend. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I love doing it. I'm excited. It's a full class, so yeah, it should be fun. So yeah,
that's good.
And it's
what are you doing?
New owners. I love teaching new owners class. So I get to teach the new owners class, and then I'm teaching quilt path after that. But yeah, I got to teach the new owners class this week. I love teaching people how to long arm, how to use their APQS machines. I love it.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Yeah. Good stuff.
Oh,
good stuff.
That's one of my favorite things. My new renters love teaching them. And then when they come in the second time and they gain a little bit more confidence, they come in the third time, they gain even more confidence. It's just really good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It is. It's nice to watch them grow, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We had a lady come in. It was her third quilt she had quilted this week, and she was quilting roses on it, free motion. She did an incredible job. Awesome. And she's like, I think I really like this. I was like, yeah, it's fun. She goes, I just get to draw. And I was like, yeah, it's fun. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, and it was huge too. It was like a queen size quilt. She She did a fabulous job on it. So yeah,
That's great.
It's always amazing to me how quick they have success, right? Because I mean, when I got my machine, I had practice class on it, and I was practicing. And when you're running, you don't really have that luxury, right? You feel like you have to produce immediately, and still did awesome. So yeah.
I had a customer several years ago, I guess now, and she started out as a rental customer, finishing her quilts, and then she came to a free motion class. And then after the free motion class, she booked herself in once a week, every week for, I think it was 6 weeks, could have been 8. I can't remember now because it was several years ago. And she came in with the backing that was wide backing. And I think she had like 5 or 6 meters of it, like huge length.
Wow.
And she came in and she loaded it, and she was booked for 4 hours on a Wednesday afternoon, once a week for however long. So she would just play from the front. Instead of coming to quilt, she would just muck around, and then she'd take it all off, take it home. Next week, she'd bring it back. And quite often during the week, she had gone home and drawn on it, either marked out blocks or marked out channels. She did some grid work, drew some things, like drew a spine with some feathers on it already, or whatever it was that she wanted to do. And she would come back every week and reload it. And she worked on that until it was finished. Cool. She was having great fun because she was just playing, put the ruler base on, and she started working with rulers, and she got good and comfortable. And then she bought her machine. I didn't know she was actually looking, like she never told me that she was thinking of buying a machine while she was doing all this. I just thought she was working up her skills, right? So she could start custom quilting her quilts when she came here. And then she came in one day. She goes, "Okay, I'm ready. I'm ready." I said, "For what?" She goes, "I'm going to have me a Lucy." I said, "All right." So, yeah. So now she's doing that at home.
Do both of you start your runners off with Pantos?
I do, yeah.
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
And I know you do not.
I do not. I start mine off free motion from the very beginning. So, yeah.
Well, that's awesome.
So, yeah. And then they can take a panel class later, but yeah, all of mine start out free motion to start out with. So, yeah.
Well, that's cool. I give mine the option, like, not unless they say something. Like I've had people say, if they express an interest in wanting to free motion, of course, absolutely, right? Sometimes they'll do pantographs for a while, and then they'll come in and they'll say, "I think I'm going to work from the front," and then I get all like wiggy and excited because that's my favorite side of the machine. And then they'll do that. I'm like, "Do you mind if I work from the front?" Yay!
Yes. So, so we took a store over from an existing owner who was very well self-taught. She, and she had an amazing program. We were very fortunate to take over this program. And it was from the back side, but my love is from the front side. And I think her comfort zone actually is from the back side. And she was amazing at paper pantograph. It looked like it was computer. She's amazing. Mm-hmm. And my customers, when they were like, "Oh, I'd love to do free motion," I'm like, "Sure." And like all of these looks were like, "Well, we couldn't do that before." And I'm like, "Well, that's okay, because her love is something different and my love is something different. Both are not, they're just different.
They're not mutually exclusive."
Right.
You can do both of them. And I don't mind my runners doing pantographs. We do teach them how to do that too eventually. We just start out with, getting them on the machines and getting them in control and knowing where the buttons are and that kind of stuff before we get them on the back of the machine, not being able to see the needle, right? I had a problem, which is why I went that way. So, I had sew over something they shouldn't have sewn over.
Oh, yeah. Sure. I can see, because it pantographs to me, paper pantographs, are upside down and backwards. They really feel so foreign at first because you're used to looking at your needle. Even piecers who come in to work on the machine, it's upside down and backwards, I think, and trying to explain that. And then once you get that through them going, yes, this is upside down and backwards. As soon as I say those words, it seems like there's like this relief that helps them. What do you think, Tracy?
I haven't had anybody feel that way. But I let people do what they, I've always told people, when you're here, this is your time. I'm very excited if you want to work from the front. I'm fine if you want to work from the back. I don't care if you're quilting a quilt. I don't care if you're doing, if you're just bringing fun stuff to just muck around and play with. Bring stuff and quilt it and take it home and make a wallet out of it. Doesn't matter, you know? I just encourage them to do whatever, you know, and I will encourage, like, if you ever want to try from the front, like, feel free to, like, bring something before you start. That's another thing they can do too. Book some time for your quilt. Book some time, like, leave some time in that booking for either before or after, or bring longer backing, longer batting, and some just solid or whatever you want, and load that first and play for an hour, and then load your quilt right on, because your backing is so big, right? Load your quilt onto that, and then, or save the playtime for afterwards. So you get to experience both sides of the machine. You get your quilt done, which is what they want to accomplish when they're here. But by loading the extra backing and batting and throwing on some solid fabric or something that doesn't matter and doesn't have to be anything, then it gives them a chance to come stress-free, because they're not going to wreck anything. Their words, not mine. I don't want to ruin it. Then it's just play fabric and just play, you know, because it is very different working on a sit-down quilter, moving your paper around underneath your pen, than it does moving your pen across your paper with the long arm. So yeah, so I encourage people to do that too, if that's their thing, you know, whatever. Everybody wants something different out of it, so try it all.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and we let them do donation quilts for our local guild for free. So it's quilt tops and backing and batting that we have, that we will let them load onto the long arms if the long arms aren't rented, and they can come in and play, and they get that same practice idea, right? But it goes to a charity, and you know, the guild uses them for 3 different charities, so it kind of does the same thing Tracy's saying, but produces something the guild can use, right? So but yeah, and it's worked really well for us now. We've always had a little bit of downtime. That's rapidly going away. So it's going to be interesting to see how that works out as we're just getting busier, right? So yeah.
And we have the same kind of, we have a organization that we partner with. We just charge 1 hour, no matter how long it takes to rent, just so there's some kind of, I guess, accountability for coming in, and not necessarily, and I don't mean this in the wrong way, but I need to make sure, like, the machine, if it's going to be used, it's going to be used kind of thing, and not slack off and not come in at all, because then that means it was sitting there when somebody else could have been running it, kind of thing.
Right.
And then, because I feel that honors our customers that are wanting to quilt as well. It's more to protect my customers who want to get on that long arm.
Right. We only do it during downtime. So if they've booked time for donation time, we mark it as donation. And the deal is, if somebody wants to book the long arm, we book the long arm, because we're in business, right? So
yeah.
Oh, that's a good idea. Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, it's the same idea that you're doing, where you're protecting the fact that people are paying you to use the machines too, and you have to respect that, right? So, and right now I've been adding extra quilt paths to my systems, right? So we're getting ready to offer our first class to our renters to learn how to use quilt paths. So that's going to be interesting. it's going to be interesting to see the people who come all the time and think they really want to use my quilt path, right? It's going to be interesting to see if they continue to use it, if they go back to free motion quilting, because I know that I free motion quilt much quicker than a computer can quilt a quilt, right? So I'm charging, if you're charging someone by the hour to quilt something, and the computer is slower, right? And yet costs you more to have there for them, right? I've never thought that it was in my customers' advantage for us to rent them. So I haven't rented them up until now. But now that I only have one machine that doesn't have a quilt path, and hopefully it will be getting one soon. Yeah.
That would be fun.
Yeah, I'm hoping to buy actually 2 more quilt paths and 1 more machine. So I want to set my studio at my house that is where I piece, and I haven't been in it in 2 years. So I'm about to take everything out of it and redo it and make a filming studio. So that I don't look like I'm sitting in an office when I'm talking to you guys. So, no, but also so I can film videos for my classes. But so I want to have a machine and a quilt path here.
That's a good idea.
That's awesome. I used to get guilds donate all kinds of tops. And that's what I would teach the certification class with. And then COVID, or can't say that word, that happened. But I do have a friend who sews from the moment she gets up till the minute she goes to bed. And she makes top after top for Quilts of Valor. That's something that's close to her heart. So she donates to me all these tops all the time. So what I do with that, I'll quilt some of them for them. I have a lady who comes in. Her name's Sally. She's lovely. And she's a regular rental customer here, but she only quilts Quilts of Valor. So she'll come in with long backing, long batting. And she comes in at 10. She's always done by 2, and she always gets 3 quilts done.
Whoa.
So when the machines are down, I will throw a Quilt of Valor on for her so that she isn't, because Bonnie's pretty prolific with these quilt tops, right?
Right.
So I'll quilt some. I donate the backing and the batting, and Quilt Path will do it. I have new Quilt Path owners. They'll come into the shop. The day before, I had 2 new Quilt Path owners, and I had them in for the day. So we loaded 2 Quilts of Valor, one on one machine, one on the other. And I walked both of them through edge to edge quilting. So that was great, because at the end of the day, 2 more QOVs were done, and people were learning how to use their Quilt Path systems. So the donation quilts are awesome. And then it allows me to, when Sally comes next time, I can hand her a couple. So I'm not always handing her bags of tops that she has to do herself. I get to hand her finished things that just need binding and labels. So that's good. Yeah.
I actually talked to the Nancy, my lady, the other day, and I'm like, can we get some more? And she's like, more? And so they're like, I can just see the church fervently working to get these quilts done. So it's pretty amazing. It's a great circle of the quilt. It's like amazing.
You can go the other way too. I have about 200 tops, or that we actually wrap them with the backing, the batting, and the quilt top. Or the guild does that for us. They make sure that everything's the sizes that we need, and it's all wrapped up, ready to go. Bindings even in the bundle with us. But I think we have about 200 of them that are stored right now, and that's a normal number for us. We quilt 25 to 30 a month, because I use them in beginners classes. I use them in certification for rental classes. If I'm teaching a Quilt Path class, I have one on, right? So anytime I can quilt one, we do, and then people can come in and rent the machines and quilt them too. And then we also do drop up and pick off for the guild. So if we typically don't bind them, we put them back into the bucket, not bound, not squared up, not anything, right? And then somebody will come square them up, bind them, and drop them off. Someone else will come pick it up, do the label. So it ends up being a huge circle of love, right? Everybody does the part that they want to do, and get a lot. My guild does about 1,500 quilts a year.
Wow.
So, yeah,
Wow.
it's a good sized guild, but their goal is 500 for each of the 3 charities that they do work with. And then I also do things for Quilts for Valor as well. But
same here.
Yeah.
I offer discounted rental time for them. So they have a whole staff of people, because I feel like Quilts of Valor are always looking for long armors to do quilts, to quilt for people. So that's kind of fun.
I will say, Kathy, it was kind of cool when I was up in Canada. When I think of Quilts of Valor, I think Stars and Stripes and all the things that are U.S.-based Quilts of Valor. And then I was up helping Tracy with the show, and they were quilting Quilts of Valor at the show. And it was maple leaves, and it was so cool to me for it to be something other than what we expect, right? And I'm, 2 different countries, 2 different Quilts of Valor.
Right.
It was amazing.
Lots of red and white and maple leaves.
Yes. And your quilts, and ours are typically red, white, and blue with stars.
Yep.
The other thing I've done, and I'm doing it again in May. I don't know if either of you ever done it or have ever done it. I have the local guilds come in, and they have a day. So it's up to them to organize who's coming. And again, huge backing, huge batting. I load everything because quite often the people who are coming, they're not long arm quilters. They may or may not have had any experience at all. Some of them do. Like there's always a couple in the group that either have a long arm at home, or they just have experience, or they're a rental customer here, or they've been somewhere else or whatever. And then they come for the day and all the machines get loaded, and everybody just takes turns and goes, 8 people might quilt one because they just switch each out. Sometimes someone will come in the morning for a few hours, and then someone will come in the afternoon, and that person will go home or whatever. So I've got another one of those coming up in May, second week in May, I think. It's the Rouge Valley Guild that's coming. So they'll be quilting quilts for the charity that they that they support.
It's pretty cool.
That for the Capital Guild. I copied you because you've been doing that for years. And I set up, we typically do it for a weekend. So we do Saturday and Sunday. And I put a call out to all of the local long armors, and then also the my renters, right? So everybody who's using the machines actually either has a long arm or knows how to use one. And we load all 5 machines so that they can use them all. And then we have people set up that are doing bindings there, people who are piecing quilts. So my entire showroom is just jam-packed full of people, and it's so much fun. But I did learn that one of the ladies who is a professional long armor came in to help us one day, and we had loaded, multiple things on a backing, the whole 9 yards, thinking this won't be a big deal. It was everything that we could do for 3 of us to load quilts in front of her. Like she was using I think I had 4 long arms at that point, and she was using all 4 of them, quilting them so fast we could barely keep in front of her. I mean, it was hilarious. I mean, it got to be like a joke between us because we were pinning on as fast as we could, and she's like, "Done with this one," and up to the next machine, and I'm like, "Okay."
Clearly, she was free motion quilting them and not using pantographs.
She was, and she's got a lot of experience. Yeah. Yeah, I don't think she was using her stitch regulator either. I think she was.
I was just going to.
Oh, my people! She's my people.
She is your people for sure. So yeah, it was. You should have seen the people go. You can quilt that fast. We're like,
Yeah.
Well, and normally you're not trying to stay in front of somebody, right? So it was like we were running around like throwing stuff onto those long arms, trying to get it all in front of her so that she had no downtime. But she was there for like 4 hours and quilted some unreal, like I think it was 15 or 16 quilts in 4 hours.
Wow.
Yeah, because she didn't have to load anything. She didn't have to take anything off. All she had to do was move. She's like, this is the best day ever. Can you come work at my house for me, right? Because I'd love to have someone do all my loading and taking them off, and I don't have to buy them. I don't have to do anything. This is great.
She should be in the Guinness Book of World Records, man.
Mm-hmm.
She was flying.
That's fast.
So yeah.
They're typically not monster quilts either. So they're
not.
Right.
These were like isolate quilts. I think is what we were doing that day. So smaller quilts, baby quilts, right? But
yeah, but still get them done.
There have been quilts on wheels, which are also smaller because they're made to fit on the lap of somebody in a wheelchair, right? So, and you can't have them get caught in the wheels and stuff. So it's also smaller quilts. I don't think we were doing the third charity can be full size bed quilts. And I'm pretty sure we had decided not to do those 2 days. But yeah, because we can get more done. And I mean, it was amazing to me because we have a fabric manufacturer that is in South Carolina. And they donated like the panels for us for the day. So we had all kinds of panels from Spring Creative that we were able to use. They loaded the back of my car. I was down there they actually own an APQS machine, so I was down there helping them with something. And told them what was going on, and they were like, open the back of your car, and just started loading like bolts of fabric in for us to use.
Awesome.
They're awesome. They're completely awesome. It's a wonderful company to begin with, but yeah, I was like, okay, I wasn't really sure my car wasn't overweight. I was like going, okay, that's probably enough. I can't see out the back. Yeah, it was pretty impressive, and we finally got all of those quilted up. It took us quite a while to get all that fabric quilted up. So yeah,
I would think so.
Gone. And then we've also had batting manufacturers give us batting because we have a couple batting manufacturers that are close to Raleigh. So I mean, and just talking to them, not really asking them anything, just in a conversation with something else, telling them what you're doing, and they'll go, "Oh, we can send you some batting for you to do that with." It amazes me how generous the big companies in our industry are. You know, what they actually give away. Sure. So yeah.
For sure.
For sure.
But I also feel like the people who do come into our stores, I mean, even the obviously the guilds and all of this of their time, their talent, and then they turn around and rent time from me to finish quilts for NICU babies or all of this other beautiful things, just to see their giving and their hearts are just so big. That's the best part. I think I love just seeing.
Yeah. It's the warm fuzzies.
Yeah.
We were all cheerleading. We were cheerleading Marsha the other day. The day I had the two ladies in to learn Quilt Path. Marsha brought in a quilt that she'd quilted or pieced for her daughter. It's 123 by 123.
Wow.
She's quilted quilts before, but never one this big. So she bought 2 of those fit for a queen wide backs, and she had to piece them, right? So I helped her load because that's an awful lot of stuff to load when you're not able to do it with your eyes closed. So, and we all just cheered her on all day long because it was like this mountain of quilts. You know what I mean? And she did a very simple pantograph that she was very comfortable with. It was all squares. So throughout the day, there's a square of Barbie fabric, and because her daughter loved Barbie fabric growing up. And then there was another square with whatever, but all these squares had meaning. And so we didn't go through it square by square just because the quilt was so huge, but it's like, oh, and what does this, what was this one for, kind of thing. And this, like I talked about with the other ladies from last week, Marsha had a story about every piece of fabric that was in that quilt. And it took her all day. And when it was done, man, and she used flannel on the backing. I love flannel. backing fabric. It
Mhm.
just makes everything, it takes it up a notch, makes it just a little more snuggly and soft, and it sticks to the bed, right?
Mhm.
The flannel fabric sticks to the bed. We pulled that sucker off. I don't even know how much it weighed. Oh my goodness. And we took a picture and we all clapped for her at the end
Yes.
because she worked so long. So, she worked all day quilting that quilt, and it just was fabulous when it was done. Yeah, it looked really good.
That happened the other day here too. We had a lady she'd saved this fabric for over 20 some years.
Wow.
And was cool. It was just strips of fabric. I mean, it wasn't too elaborate. They're about 4 inches by 8 inches or something. And she just made this beautiful quilt. And she was talking and showing me this was for this and this was for this, and very interesting fabrics for some of the niches that this young lady had in her life, right? Kind of all the way up to her medical degree and things. So it was really kind of cool.
Not every quilt has to be paper pieced or, these really intricately pieced things, right? Marsha's was all 4-inch, 6-inch, 4 to 6-inch squares. Every square meant something. And when that thing came off the frame, it was just beautiful. Just beautiful. Almost looked scrappy because every fabric was different. And it always amazes me how, how when you're choosing, well, I don't know, I don't piece anymore, but when you're choosing fabrics, it's been a long time. When you're choosing fabrics for a quilt, how much effort goes into making sure that, they're the right tones and they're the right values. And well, this is going to lay beside this. Is it going to look good? And, well, I don't like the way that one sits against that one. And there's so much time goes into the planning of the color scheme for some quilts, and then other quilts, you put a million fabrics together without any thought to the direction of the fabric, the colors in the fabric. And at the end, it just looks fabulous and it all works. Right. It's kind of weird, sometimes we worry so much about every single color, or that one's a little too bright, that one's a little too dull, that one's got too much gray in it, blah, 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 blah. And then you get a quilt that's just got everything in it and it looks phenomenal when it's done. So that's kind of cool. I always love that too,
So did you have people in your family that quilted?
Me?
Yeah.
No, I'm the only one. I'm the first one.
Same.
See, now I grew up with my great-grandmother quilted and her sisters. So I can remember sitting down and asking what the material from a quilt was from. And I was little, like maybe, well, it would have been before we went to Germany. So I was under 8 for sure. But I can remember her telling me, oh, that was, so-and-so's dress from Easter when she was whatever age, right? So we have quilts from easily from the 30s and 40s, right, that have been in the family for that long, that are made up of people's, leftover material from dresses. So yeah, to me, it's weird because I grew up with them talking about the materials inside of quilts, right?
Not me. My mom she sewed dresses for me when I was little. I have pictures of me in, like, I think I was 5. There's a picture of me in a little white dress with green polka dots. She made that. There's pictures where I'm in I'll never forget that poncho. It was a poncho. And remember, it was the 70s. And it was striped. It was striped red and white. And then it had blue trim and it had tassels on it. She knitted that.
Oh, wow.
So she did that kind of stuff. Yeah, but never quilting.
Yeah.
No quilters.
We quilted a little bit when we were in Germany. My dad was stationed in Germany for 4 years. So when we lived there, my mom still made all of our clothes. She made all of our clothes until my sister went into high school. So, and my sister's older than I am. At which point there were some people that were stationed there with us that had babies. and my mom made quilts for them. That was the first time I can remember somebody piecing fabric together. It wasn't for clothing, but I mean, finished quilts were all over my world, right?
Right.
And I can remember the great aunt, or, you know, my mom's great aunts. So my great great aunts would come over to my great grandmother's house, and they would have quilting bees in the summer. So if we were happened to be in Ohio during the summer, we would be with the family, right? So I'd be sitting underneath her. My mom hand quilted. I can remember her sitting there doing it, but it wasn't something she did really until later. She got really into needle turn applique, and
wow.
I mean, I had graduated from college by that point, and that became my sister and her thing, right? So always grew up around quilts, and I was always asking about them, but we didn't really quilt until, well, I didn't really quilt until 2004-ish, right? But my mom got into it in probably the 90s. My mom and my sister both. But like she said, it was a natural progression for her because she'd always been around fabric. I mean, she was still making like all of our formals when we were in college. My mom made them all.
Oh, wow.
So
that's beautiful.
like she literally made all of our clothes until my sister was in high school. So I would have been in junior high school. My sister would have been in high school. And then that was also the same time that we moved back from Germany, and my mom got a job for the first time. But I remember her working outside of the home. So which, you know, that's just, we moved a lot with what my dad did. So it's kind of hard at that point to have a job when you're moving every 2 to 4 years.
Right.
You know? So,
Yupper noodles.
And yet we kept the quilts. As much as we moved, they went in the boxes and came with us. So that says a lot about those quilts too, right?
Right.
I still have one of them in my house. I know my sister does because my mom and dad live with my sister now. But Afghans that were knitted for us, those things that were handmade were what we kept with us all those years, right? The rest of the stuff didn't really move with us. So yeah.
Cool.
Interesting. But yeah, so fabric definitely tells a story. And if you have old quilts that are, especially family heirlooms like what I have, if that person is still alive that was involved in it, talk to them about it, right? Because there's a history there. It's, you know, we're losing our history because we're, like, I didn't write down what they told me. When they told me, I was very young when they told me, right? I know it's a family quilt, and I know it's made out of dresses that were, you know, important at that time. But to me, it doesn't mean anything because I don't know whose dresses they were at this point. Right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
I have a quilt from my grandmother and my dad's side that I met once in my life for about 20 minutes. So I will never know the story, but I have that quilt from her. So kind of cool.
Yeah. You're still wrapped up in her love, right?
Right? I mean, it's kind of interesting how it kind of skipped, you always, things skip a generation. I guess quilting skipped a generation in my mom, and then I'm picking it up, and we'll see if it connects with any of my children. We'll see. So Maggie for sure has already. So yeah.
It's definitely connected. And I would, you have Jake. He's more into the machine side, I know, but it could happen.
Hey, he actually he's with some piecing and stuff. I think it's so really? In our store we have the Real Men Quilt t-shirts, kind of thing. So yeah, I love pointing out that, we have a husband and wife team that's in here right now renting. So it's kind of cool. I love it.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah, I like it when the husbands come to like their new owners classes. Sometimes the husband is the quilter. He could I don't judge when people come into the room. You never know who's going to buy a machine or who the quilter is, but I do like it when the couples come together for their new owners classes, and all of a sudden one of them's like, I wasn't really interested in this, but maybe I am, So, and we have a couple. I have a customer that I've had for a long time, who he bought the machine. His wife was there the day he bought it. She's wonderful. She pieces. She's learning the long arm now, and he's had his machine for quite a while, and she's just now gone, oh, yeah, I'm going to learn how to do this. I'm like, okay. And she's like, she's never had to before because she had her own personal long armor.
Yeah. I have a couple of couples like that too.
That's awesome.
The wife does the piecing and the husband does the long arming.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I have one couple that's reversed, that the husband does the piecing and the wife does the long arming. You just
Perfect.
never know.
Right?
Perfect.
It's very cool.
It's nice to see them having a hobby that they both enjoy together.
Yeah.
You know?
We don't really have a hobby that we do together, weirdly. Matt was going to take up piecing during that period we're not talking about. He did cut out about maybe a quarter of a quilt and decided it was a lot of work, and then left it sitting on the cutting table. I eventually packed it up for him.
Maybe someday.
And then he said, are you going to finish that quilt for me? Absolutely not. It's not a quilt I want to piece. It's something you wanted.
Right.
It and all the fabric for it are in a project box for you. You have a pig. There you go.
That's funny. Well, Shop Pop is going on right now for us. And it's interesting seeing families and husband and wife come in together. It's really kind of fun. Not just sisters or aunts or grandmas and moms and, you know what I mean, kind of thing, but husband and wives coming in together. It's kind of fun.
And not necessarily traditional families either. So sometimes you see two husbands come in, two wives come in, right? I think it's just great to see people sharing what they love, right?
Right. So, we had these two gentlemen, they're a couple, they were looking at machines, and I was halfway joking going, hey, I can sell you one. He goes, oh, I have patience. I can wait. He doesn't have patience. He can't wait. And so one walked out with the machine, and about a month later, he came back and got his machine. It was so cute. I have patience. He doesn't.
I don't know the meaning of that word. With anything.
It depends on what I want, what I can get at that moment versus, is that really what I want, or do I want to save up and get something else, right?
Right.
Which is kind of what happened with my first long arm. Is I knew what I wanted, and an offer was made for a different solution, and I waited until I could get what I wanted. So, which is why that was, the first thing I really pretty much quilted on was a Millennium, because I knew I wanted. I didn't know necessarily what brand I wanted, but I wanted the top of the line long arm from somebody. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
I'm more in the Tracy camp, but I think a lot of my quilters are more in the Tracy camp too, because we all tend to buy lots of fabric, right? Lots of kits, lots of fun things.
Oh, I mean, but then when you look at like how many sewing machines you have, I can say that about my long arm. It depends on what it is, right? I still have 8 domestic sewing machines.
Mm.
Who needs 8? Like,
you win.
Yeah. Well, and
yes,
I've given some of them away. I've given them to other people and they're using them. So even though I technically still own them, the other people were like, oh, you can't just give it to me. I'll just borrow it. Well, I don't want it back. So it's yours now, right?
Right.
But I have ones that, like, I have my mom's that she sewed all those clothes on. She had a Singer Slam-O-Matic, which is like a Rocketeer. It's from the 1940s or 1950s. It's all metal on the inside. So I'm not giving that one away. That has sentimental meaning to me, right?
Right.
I also have a featherweight. So I got the featherweight first, and I love my featherweight, but it doesn't have the meaning that the other one does to me, right? So I've had a hard time giving some of them away, even though I don't use them as much as I probably should. Well, I'm not using any of them right now. The only thing, I have one that sits in my I have a Janome 6500 that's at my showroom, and that's what we put binding and stuff on, or if we have to repair a quilt, because you have to have a domestic machine if you're going to have a long arm showroom.
Right.
So yeah, that one sits there after I got my embroidery all-in-one Janome, right? But I waited for that one, like, because that was one that I wasn't going to get, you know. When I first told Matt I wanted it, he's like, yeah, that's more than I'm willing to pay.
Yeah, that was a big machine. Yes.
So I had to save up the money to buy it. So it's,
right.
You know, it's if I really want something, though, I'm willing to wait and save up to get it. Most of the time, I'm more of an instant gratification girl, though.
I'm pretty impulsive.
Yeah.
It's not good.
Yeah.
It's not good.
Yeah. I think lots of quilters are.
Yeah. But mine comes to a price point, right? If it's under a certain amount, I'll just buy it and won't think about it. If it's over a certain amount, and it kind of comes down to how much I paid for my first car. If it's over the price of that first car, I'm like, yeah, no, I can't do it.
For sure. I'm the same way. I'm not out like racking up credit card bills to buy boats and all those kind of things. Not talking about that kind of stuff, but I don't. Yeah.
No.
Awesome.
But hey, I gave up crack. It's a joke. It's a joke. Oh my God.
Oh, honey, do we need an intervention?
You should have seen your face.
Like, when did this happen? No, not that you gave it up. That you were doing it at all.
I'm not judging over here. My eyeballs just popped out, but I'm not judging.
Oh my gosh, you two.
Like,
no, that's just
what?
It's just one of those things. It's one of those stupid things that I say.
Like underwater basket weaving? Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, it's like, well, you know, how bad can it be? I already gave up crack.
Yeah.
I've never. I don't do.
Okay. So my reaction is I've known Tracy for a really long time, and no, she doesn't.
Clean as a whistle.
She's clean, right? So I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, this is something I didn't know, and because we've known each other for a long time, right?
Yeah. No, it was a bad joke. It goes over better, I guess, in person, in the room, in the moment. I don't know.
I thought it was pretty good because I don't know you. I'm still working on a relationship, and when you said that, okay.
No.
Yeah. Maybe that's what it was. Kathy believed you.
No, I didn't believe.
I was kidding. I was kidding.
Okay, Tracy. So I love fun sense of humor because I have 8 children, and everybody always feels like they have an opinion about my life, and I like saying things that get people's attention. Hey, I have 8 children. Oh, are you a blended family? Like, nope, they all have the same dad. You know, I say bizarre things as well. But,
you birthed them all.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm great.
No, I quite often say something, and as it's coming out of my mouth, I can hear that little voice in my head that's saying, "Stop talking, stop talking." But I keep talking, even though I can hear in my head, "Zip it." Nope, I just keep going.
I think that's why you and I get along so well, is because, you know, my guy is just going, if you don't say it, she will. Go ahead and say it, right?
Yeah.
And I'll just giggle.
You just giggle.
Yeah. Ooh, that makes me feel more normal, let me tell you, than anything. So, well, thank you guys for spending some time with us. It was awesome. And thanks to all of the people who listen. If you could throw a like and a thumbs up, subscribe. That would be great. Fabulous.
Great.
That would be great. And for those of you who are celebrating Easter, happy Easter. Long weekend.
And yeah, have a great time, guys. Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
See you next week.